Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة. حي على الصلاة. حي على الفلاح. حي على الفلاح. الله أكبر، الله أكبر. الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله أحمده واستعينه واستهديه واستغفره وأؤمن به جل وعلا ولا أكفره وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أرسله بالهدى ودين الحق ليظهره على الدين كله ولو كره المشركون. All praise belongs to Allah. We praise Him, we seek His help, His assistance, and His guidance. We believe in Him and do not disbelieve in Him. I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, and Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is a servant and messenger. Allah said him, that is Muhammad with Deen al-Haq, the religion, the way, the methodology of truth. And this way of life known as Islam will rise to its proper position in this world, whether the mushriks like it or not. أما بعد فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله وأوثق الأمور كلمة التقوى وخير الملال ملة إبراهيم وخير السنن سنة محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وأشرف الحديث ذكر الله وأحسن القصص هذا القرآن وخير الأمور أوزنوها وشر الأمور محدثاتها وأحسن الهدي هدي الأنبياء وأشرف الموت قتل الشهداء وأما دلالة بعد الهدى وخير الأعمال ما نفاء وخير الحال ما أتباع وشر الأمة أما الكذب. Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam has said the most truthful of discourses is Kitabullah, or the Book of Allah. The most trustworthy word is Taqwa, or fear of Allah. The best of the community is the community of Prophet Ibrahim. The best way of life is the Sunnah of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. The remembrance of Allah is the most glorious of all things. The best of all narrations is Quran. The best acts are those requiring the highest degree of will and determination. The best way of life is the one adopted by the prophets of Allah. The most glorious death is the death of the martyr. The most wretched blindness consists of going astray after finding the right way. Best acts are the ones that yield benefits. There's guidance that which people may be able to follow. The worst blindness is the blindness of the heart. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Inna Allah yahmuru bil-adli wal-ihsani wa-ita'i dil-qurba wa-yanha dil-fashai wal-munkari wal-baghi ya'idhakum la'alakum tadhakkarun. The law commands justice, doing of good and brotherly to kith and kin, and he forbids all shameful deeds and injustice and rebellion. He instructs you that you may receive admonition. فَمَنْ يُرِيدِ اللَّهُ أَنْ يَهْدِيَهُ يَشْرَحْ صَدْرَهُ لِلْإِسْلَامِ. Those whom Allah in His plan will to guide, He open their breast to Islam. يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا اتَّقُوا اللَّهَ حَقَّ تُقَاتِهِ وَلَا تَمُوتُنَّ إِلَّا وَأَنْتُمْ مُسْلِمُونَ. For you believe through Allah as He should be feared, and do not die except in a state of Islam. وَاعْتَصِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا. And hold fast all together by the rope which Allah stretches out for you, and be not divided amongst yourself. It goes on to say, and remember with gratitude Allah's favor upon you. كُنْتُمْ خَيْرَ أُمَّةٍ أُخْرِجَتْ لِلنَّاسِ تَأْمُرُونَ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَتَنْهَوْنَ عَنِ الْمُنكَرِ وَتُؤْمِنُونَ بِاللَّهِ. You are the best peoples ever raised for mankind, enjoining what is right, forbidding what is wrong, and believing in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala khayril mursaleen. Muhammadin an-Nabi al-Ummi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ijma'in. Amma ba'd, yaqulu Allah ta'ala fil Quran al-Kareem. Inna Allah wa malaikatahu yusalluna ala nabi. Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu sallu alayhi wa sallimu tasliman. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Mawlana Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. By the English meaning, for each such person there are angels in succession, behind and before him. They guard him by command of Allah. Verily, never will Allah change the condition of a people until they change it themselves with their own souls. But when once Allah willeth a people's punishment, there can be no turning it back, nor will they find besides him any to protect. Today we want to talk a little bit about change and development. But there's another ayah which says, unless you go forth, he will punish you with a grievous penalty and put others in your place. But him you would not harm in the least, for Allah hath power over all things. Go forth, whether equipped lightly or heavily, to strive and struggle with your goods and your person in the cause of Allah. That is best for you, if you but do. Unless you go forth, he will punish you with a grievous penalty and put others in your place. That relates to change, that relates to exchange, it relates to substitution. Istabdala means to substitute. So Allah has said in this ayah that if you do not go forth, or go forth, anfaru, to go forth in the cause of Allah. If you don't go forth, He will substitute another people for you. He will exchange another people for you. He will replace another people for you. And I'll go to another ayat and we'll continue. These after the manner of the people of Pharaoh and of those before them, they received the signs of Allah, and Allah punished them for their crimes, for Allah is strong and strict in punishment. Because Allah will never change the grace. This word is different than the other. Ghayra was before. This word here is niyama. The grace, the mercy, the gift of Allah. He will, because Allah will never change the grace with which He had bestowed on a people until they change what is in their own souls. And verily Allah is He who heareth and knoweth all things. These after the manner of the people of Pharaoh and those before them, they treated the signs as false of their Lord, so we destroyed them for their crimes, and we drowned the people of Pharaoh, for they were all oppressors and wrongdoers. As we said, today's subject deals with change. In one instance is using the word ghayra, and another time is using the word badala. They have some similar but different meanings. In one place, Allah said He will not change the condition of a people until ghayra, until they change that which is in themselves, in fusihim. So at that time, Allah is talking about a personal change for people. So this is talking about the people in general, but it's also talking about infusihim, until they change that which is in themselves. And the other is saying, go forth in the cause of Allah. If you don't, you will receive a type of punishment, and He will replace you. He will substitute you. He will exchange. He will replace you with somebody else. So when you talk about organizational transformation and personal transformation and societal transformation, all of these are included in what we just read. But in this case, remember, there's a certain cycle of life. There's birth, right? There's growth. We grow and we're born as little babies, right? And we need everything, and then we get Cheerios rolling, and we get to rolling, and can't nobody tell us nothing. Then age starts to creep up on us. So we acquire aches and pains, and vision, you start needing glasses. I remember when I started needing glasses, I was giving khutbah and I was holding, everybody knew it because I was holding the stuff. This is for months. I got it way back here to read it. Or I got to have light right up on it to read it. And everybody knew, well, get yourself some reading glasses because you know your vision, you're not 20/20 anymore, and you need a little help. Okay? They have a saying that what was traveled around on all fours, then traveled in twos, then traveled in threes. They say, well, it's the human being, because he first crawled around on all fours, right? Then he walking upright, talking out the side of his mouth. Then he get a little older, he need a cane. 3. So this means there's birth, growth decline. You start to decline. It's everywhere. The trees, the animals, all life has that cycle. Then you die. It's all over. Well, for us it's not all over. Even for the animals it's not all over. When they die in a certain place, right? I run in the hills a lot in California, and you can smell the animal that died in a certain place. And you run by there a little bit later, the next year, and that place is the greenest part in the forest. Why? Because all those, they decomposed and turned into fertilizer and greened up everything. Your body and mine will do the same thing for the earth, but we have a different destination. So it says, for each such person, there are angels in succession. So now we're talking about individual. And this angel recording, it's like, can you imagine that we get a chance to write our own book? We get a chance to write our own book, and we're going to get our book. We're going to have an idea how we did, whether we get it in our right hand or our left hand, right? But the angels are recording. They are honorable recorders. They do not record nothing that they don't witness, you see? So what are you doing? You're writing your own book. You're writing your own future. You're choosing your own destiny. The takdir, the measure, the qadr of Allah, right, is the qadr of Allah, but He gives you the opportunity to choose and to select. So right now, so for each person, there are angels in succession. Before and behind him, they guard him by the command of Allah. Verily, never will Allah change the condition of a people. Now, this is not an individual now, right? The angel was there personally, that's you. But now, the word kaum means people. Allah will not change the condition of a people until they change it themselves. Anfusihim. So now we're talking about personal change. So therefore, when we deal with change, we're dealing with a multiplicity of subjects. And there's all kind of change. And then there's resistance to change. There's institutional change. Institutional change is when we see what's going on in the world today, right? And the institutions are unable or unwilling. There's a resistance to change in the world by the institutions. And in the Quran it says that Pharaoh told the people around him, these two men came to change your very cherished institutions. So these are revolutionaries. These ain't no magicians coming to spook everybody up. They come to make rebellion and to change your very special institutions. Now, sometimes institutions and institutional behavior take you up. And sometimes, right, if you don't adjust yourself at the right time, well, science says any living organism must either adapt to its environment or change its environment, which is true, right? Whatever's going on in the environment, me and you, we got to either adjust to it, adapt to it, get along with it, agree with it, cooperate with it, or if it's hostile, we have to change that environment. We look at the world today, and the Quran talked about they refused Allah's signs. They rejected Allah's signs. Well, the institutions in this society refuse to recognize the signs of Allah. They just refuse. They're everywhere. Whether it's the fires in California, right? Even today, the Santa Ana winds blowing through, and the Santa Ana winds blow through every year, and they do the same thing. You throw a match out there, hey man, or a spark, that wind hit it, and it just knocks everything over. It's unbelievable. You know, all that fresh air just heats that fire up. I mean, and it wipes out. In California, the governor a few months ago was actually almost crying on TV because this is the third or fourth year of, well, not the third or fourth, but many years of drastic fires. I mean, they now have in California hurricanes within fires. The car fire up near Redding, the fire over in Santa Rosa. When you look at those cities now, they look like Berlin after they've been bombed out, right? It's not anything, they knock off the whole city. Santa Rosa in Northern California above San Francisco was just wiped out, right? Redding, or the car fire, not far from Sacramento, north of Sacramento, maybe 100 miles or so. A hurricane inside of a fire, that means, try to understand what's happening. There's the wind is turning inside of the fire, making it hotter and hotter. And it's moving around just like a hurricane moves. I mean, that's the way the fires are right now. The car fire just recently. Why do cities like Paradise get burned just, I mean, it's not like in the past. When I was at forestry camp in California, we used to fight forest fires. The stuff they got now is not the same. That was back in the 60s. In the 60s, you just run out with mow plows and Pulaskis, right? And dig a fire trail, and the fire stops. So it burns up there, that's it. And even in those days, the white man was kind of cruel. So he'd be out there fighting the fire. And so instead of putting the water on the fire, he had to put the water on us. Why? Because that's how hot it was. They wouldn't have you way back in safety and all of that stuff. You know when steam be coming off of you? I said, boy, this white man is serious. But those were nice, relaxed, almost enjoyable forest fires. They're not like that anymore. They have hurricanes within the fire. And that hurricane moves the fire right wherever it wants to take it. And the fire that was at, say, 1,000 degrees, now it's 2,000 degrees. Why didn't wind? It's like that thing the blacksmith put in there to put air into the fire, and it turns a cold red. What about a hurricane that's bringing its own fresh oxygen? I'm trying to tell you, but the people look at those signs and they reject them. They say, oh, that's time of the day. It ain't going nowhere, you know. That ain't no big deal. And old Don, you know, he getting ready to leave, hopefully. Don said, oh, that ain't nothing. He say, it's forest mismanagement. You know, you guys mismanaging the forest, and he done forgot that 65% of the forests in the United States are federal forests, right? The state owns a lot of it, the county owns some of it, right? But the federal government owns most of the United States. All that stuff you looking down and flying over, if it ain't nothing planted down there, the government, 65% of that is owned by the government. So if they have those kind of forest fires, the fault is 65% of the management system of the United States government. But anyway, So that means the people are resistant to change, to transformation. It could be on an organizational level. The organizations see all of that going on and they just refuse to change, right? They refuse to improve, although making a change might be better. Because a lot of times it has to do with behavior. Historical change, behavioral change, it may be ideological. You may be getting resistance from the ideology of the different people in the group that needs change, or the different people within the organization that have their own fish to fry in that organization, and they resist change, although change might be better for everybody. One group resists change because, hey, we're not going to have no jobs, like the people that say, hey, if we change this drilling and all of that, well, we're not going to have no money. So they said, we want to keep drilling oil so we can produce more carbon, so that carbon can produce more greenhouse gas, right? And the more greenhouse gas you get, right, the more hotter the fires, the more acidic the ocean is, right? So there's resistance to change. Sometimes it's groups within the movement, within the organization. This is true in Islam. This is why Allah is reminding us, unless you go forward, Allah is going to substitute you and change you with somebody else. If the African American were in the forefront of the Islamic movement inside of America, right? You go back to the Dar Islam movement and, Islamic Party, and even maybe it started with some wibble wobble here and there with the Moorish science, with the Nation of Islam, right? But the majority of the people made a transformation to true Islam, right? So the majority of Muslims in America, they may look at the news and think that it's the NOI that's the big group, but it's us, right? Then, if we're the Ansar, when the people come here, we're supposed to aid and assist them. Now in America, we got it backwards. The immigrants came here, and they wanted to have a few little Masjid, and first the students got rolling. The students got rolling so much on the campus that they would use the chapel, the Khutbah Jum'ah, they would use downstairs and the student faculty, right, for Salat al-Jum'ah. Pretty soon, all around America, they start establishing, by the 80s, Masjid away from the campus, out in the community, right? And they were always happy to see us because they were shocked that they came here, right? And they came here for business, for school and all that. They didn't come to establish Islam. They didn't accept Islam to transform America. They came to get in with America, right? And get their job, and they came here to play a part in the American system. You and I, especially in those days, when we accepted Islam, it was for self-improvement and community improvement, right? And to transform the society. So our goal is different than those people who came here. And we had Masjid all over the country, in every major city. But as time passed, and go out in Maryland, go anywhere, look at the difference between the Masjid in the immigrant community and the Masjid in our community. They are just like cathedrals now, right? And instead of loving and happy to see us, you're a Muslim? Why, of course I am. Do you know Al-Fatiha? You know Al-Fatiha? Of course I know Al-Fatiha. Sometimes, just to play with people, you might be saying, you're having fun. You know that they're just happy to see. We used to call everybody brothers, because in those days, man, it was nice. The students and us, the African-American Muslims, we used to have itikaf. We'd stay in the Masjid all the time. Every now and then for itikaf, to stay, Quranic reading and all of that. And then they graduated. And years ago in the 80s, I was talking to one of the brothers from Tennessee, I think. He said, yeah, Dr. Brothers first we was brothers. And now it's just a Negro joke. It was the name we was calling, but we should have did it. Dr. Brothers. They were brothers at first, now they Dr. Brothers. So anyway, but the goal of interacting with America was different. Our goal has always been to change and to improve America, right? But if you went to Black Lives Matter, you didn't see no immigrant Muslims down there at all. Okay, if it would have been a demonstration on Palestine, it would have been different. Why? Because whether it was Bosnia, Palestine, all of those issues, big groups, right? Oh, we want to head up that group. Oh, we got speakers, we got everything we need. But for Black Lives Matter, it was though maybe we was telling a lie. Because, if you come here from somewhere else, even if you're black, and you keep your mouth shut and go to work and come home, you work all day and you go home and go to sleep. And then you get up and go back to work. You don't run into no problem. Every now and then, they may stop you because you're black, you know what I mean? But, boss said, no problem. Me, I'm not a Negro. No, I'm from Sierra Leone. I don't want it to bother you. Then they say, oh, you're a foreigner. You're not one of ours, always running around talking about making life better. So therefore, we don't have to shoot you. Of course, I would away up in, one of the brothers, they hit him 41 times. They was looking for me and you. The thing is, the goals of you and the goals of the immigrant community is different. That's maybe one of the resistance to change. It's not bad or good. I'm saying there are reasons why things don't change. There are reasons why, with all of these signs coming from a lot, why don't nobody see what's going on? Because there's something that they might lose if they follow the change. Okay, this is how many times do you hear people talk about Allah, God, and right during this period? Very seldom. They're using words like climate change and all of that, right? Sociological resistance. This is a religious period. This is a historical, Quranic, biblical. The only time you hear the word Bible is when they have one of the floods. They say it's a flood of biblical proportions. You hear that all the time right now. Because the signs are right in front of us. Any of y'all from down in Louisiana, I'm from Arkansas, that's close, but Louisiana, Florida, man, all that area, Last month, how many hurricanes? 5 hurricanes blew up the same way. Right up to Louisiana. Right? 5 hurricanes. Why would anybody want to live there? That means the houses we have here, they would blow them away soon as you put that blue tarpaulin on the top of your house to keep the rain out, here's come another one to blow it off. I mean, these are ayats. These are signs, but people reject the signs of Allah. What are the signs saying? The signs are saying something is wrong. You are producing an environment that in a recent period of time, you won't be able to inhabit the earth. I mean, the coral reefs, all of that, right? It is turning white, overheating, everything. All the signs, acidic oceans. But why they reject the signs? Why is there resistance? Because this has been the way it's been throughout history. Right? Do you see people in the Quran, in the Bible, saying, oh yeah, we've been doing wrong, and we better straighten up? Only one group, Nineveh, right? Remember? City of 100,000 or more. Everybody else kept right on rolling till the place just poof. That's the way they're trying to take us. That's the way they're trying to make you and I to reject the signs of Allah. To reject the signs of Allah in the universe. And as the Quran says, and in themselves. There are signs of imbalance in us. There are signs of imbalance in the universe. So it could be ideological, because if we change our thinking, right, we may win on this end and lose on the other. We may win 2 and lose 4 or 5. So our self-interests make us reject those signs. That's what disbelief is. You reject the signs of Allah. Personal change. Well, Allah said, I will not change the condition of a people. For such persons, there are angels in succession, before and behind him. They guard him by the command of Allah. Verily, never will Allah change the condition of a people until they change it themselves with their own souls. So, if we want better, if we want good, what does that mean? That means you and I. Everybody else is on a resistance road, right? There are a few Christians that get an idea. They say, hey man, this don't look too good. In fact, they're reinterpreting some of their chapters, not chapters, but verses. That God gave man dominion over the fowl of the air, the fish of the sea, and everything that creeps and crawls on the planet. Now they're translating that as stewardship, not dominion. What's the difference? Dominion is I'm going to dominate the earth. I'm going to make the earth do what I want it to do, right? Stewardship is taking care of what Allah gave you, right? It's like Khalifa. We think a Khalifa is a dominator, no, but you look at the second meaning of Caliph, it means the same thing as the Christian idea. That means he's going to manage Allah's creation. He's going to help keep it in check. He's going to help keep it in balance. All right, so let's move on. But when once Allah willeth a people's punishment, there is none that can turn it back. Will they find besides him any to protect you? Now remember, unless you go forth, he will punish you with a grievous penalty and put others in your place. Estabdala, substitute. that means that we don't do our job. In fact, we have been going through a temporary substitution. Right? We're just getting back on our feet. Hopefully we up and run with it. What does that mean? Remember how Islam was. Go back 30 years ago. When you thought about Islam, did you think of an immigrant religion, white religion, or black religion? Right? You thought about Islam as a black religion. Right? Today, when you hear about it on the TV, do they come find you, or they become some Imam out there in Maryland that's scared of his own shadow? Right? Or they come ask you anything. Who do they come talk to now? So technically, there's been a transformation. We have been replaced. But it's not only the physical replacement, let's pray that it's temporary. Why? Because that temporary transition means that there's a move to replace. See, the immigrant don't know. If the people keep an idea in their mind of Islam as what? Islam revives people. Islam helps people. Remember the black community? Go back 20, 30 years. All so-and-so's a Muslim. Right away. Man, he don't drink. You know what I mean? He was married that girl he was going with. He got married. They got 8 children. They all running around together now. Right? So Islam meant to our people improvement. And some of our relatives couldn't be around us anymore. Because we didn't do nothing they did. Right? Islam meant that we were transformed. Over a period of time, we wasn't smoking no more weed, maybe every now and then. That's because it's nature, come from nature, so people find all kind of ways to explain everything. Anyway, so all of a sudden, we're making a transition. You look around in a few years, we have changed. And remember, everything we did used to be wrong. We wasn't married. We had 4 or 5 kids running around, but we wasn't married to nobody, right? Haram. That means our relations was on Islam. And whatever we drink more of that than we did water, that's for sure. Right? I mean, we would be falling over. Friday night, we'd be on the road. Right? We can't wait to hit the streets, right? That's the way, that was our custom. That was our historical behavior. That's the way we lived, right? Then Islam intercepted us, and we changed. We improved. Now, the other thing is we're from here. Although the police shoot us down and everything, but we have a natural reservoir of people now. And the people are leading in each other's direction. The Black Lives Matter, there's not a hanky-panky going on, but there's tons of white folks out there. Latinos, everybody, yeah, Black Lives Matter, blah, 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 right? Okay. When they go after the immigrants and call them all them names, Al-Qaeda and all of that, right? They don't have nobody to fall back on. But if they said that about us, day in and day out, right? They say, man, my cousin is a Muslim. And that so-and-so used to do this and used to do that. And now he running around that Koran under his arm. And that old prayer up and down. I don't know what happened to the brother. The brother went that way. Isn't that right? But then we got connections in the community. That's what I'm trying to say. The biggest mistake they made was to build all those big giant communities. Not in the black community, not in the inner city. was built in 1957. You know President Eisenhower, if y'all ever heard of him. He's the one that did, they inaugurated 1957. In those days, we didn't go there. We wasn't even heavy into the Sunnah then. We were still kind of, the black man is God, the white man is the devil. That stuff like that. I'm trying to tell you, we don't want to continue making mistakes. When Allah says, unless you go forth, He will punish you with a grievous penalty. Unless we reinforce ourselves and transform America. Remember, our goal was always to transform America. Why? Because we always got the short end of the stick in America, isn't it right? Nobody fought harder for America than me and you. The Japanese in World War II, believe it or not, while Japanese was in them camps up in Colorado and everywhere, they took all their property, they let some of them join the army and go over and fight the Germans. The only people more decorated than black people was Japanese in World War II. Not World War I, but Japanese. To prove to this march to here, their parents, children, family was in concentration camps. They stole all the property, right? They put them in jail. But they fought harder for America than me and you. Now you come down to you and I. All the rest of the time, I don't care what you hear about Teddy Roosevelt and San Juan Hill. That was black people. It was black people. All them old Western movies we used to see with the cavalry coming to the rescue, they blow the bugle and here come the cavalry. Well, that would have been the 9th and the 10th regiments. All of them were Buffalo soldiers that rescued the West. When they blow the bugle and the people come running to save the settlers, it was niggas. Yes, it was. I don't care what you say. Read the history. Buffalo soldiers. Now, we didn't have enough sense to realize that the Indians and us was in the same boat, right? And they treated us basically the same. But then we got the idea. Right now, we're in a position that the whole world is ready to assist us in our movement forward. Because our lives are now highlighted. Everybody had heard a little bit about Islam. All we have to do now is correct it, right? Remember a few years ago, didn't nobody hear nothing about Islam. They thought you was talking about a dice game or something. And Islam, what's that? All we have to do now is correct it. How? Mainly our behavior. Our behavior. They talk about dawah, we got to get out. No. The main thing that everybody watches is your behavior, not what you say. Because a Negro can say anything out of his mouth. But what did everybody do? Can you, once you become a Muslim, can you go in a restaurant and get a pork chop or something? Absolutely not. Why? Because everybody outside, so-and-so, got that Muslim hat on and a beard. They do like in the penitentiary if a brother was slipping a little. Some brothers just take a plastic bag. Not brothers, but Negroes. And, put that pork chop in this plastic bag. I guess he had it all or something. Tell the truth. Can you do anything now and you're a Muslim? Your relatives are sitting there. Pass me a drink. A drink? But you don't have to worry about your deen. Your relatives don't keep you on the Surah. Isn't that right? Tell the truth. little turkey, they ain't gonna say nothing. But if it's one of them big old hams, you know, because they don't know that Negroes have as many hams as they do turkey. I mean, turkey is the white folks thing. That the Negro had them big old hams, try a piece, if you think I'm joking. Man, Abdul, what's wrong with you, man? You know what that is? Well, what is it? You know what it is. Right? They watching you. And don't let New Year's roll by, Old Lang Syne, and you're going to take a little, just a little drink, you know, a little Irish whiskey or something. Man, you can't be drinking in here, because you're a Muslim. I said, well, everybody else drinking, but you're a Muslim. Right, tell the truth. Our relatives just announced that you're going to be a Muslim. Don't worry about halal and haram no more. They on your case. They got you. You're going to be on the Sirat, or you moving back to Mississippi somewhere. Because the Negro is going to tell the truth. They are aiders. They assist us. Right? Hey, man, I'm telling you, this is a serious religion here. So all you got to do is announce that you're a Muslim. Don't worry about it. Just keep on moving. Man, you can't be smoking and smelling up the house with that stuff, you know. And then you got to have a clean place to pray. You can't have that dog in here. Right? Everything, they gonna help you. All right, anyway, let's move on. So there's a resistance to change. And in this case, unless you go forth, Allah will punish you with a grievous penalty and put others in your place. But him you will not harm in the least, for Allah has power over all things. Again, this was to exchange or replace. If you go forth, whether equipped lightly or heavily, and struggle and strive with your goods and your persons in the way of Allah, right, in the cause of Allah, that is best for you if you would know. Now, we know the part where it says, whether equipped lightly or heavily. That means whether you got a bow and arrow or whether you got a machine gun, whatever you have, whether you equip lightly or heavily, go forth in the cause of Allah. But then there's other tafsir that talks about there's an additional meaning. Whether you're young and thin and ready to go, right? Or whether you're older and thicker, right? Heavier, you still got to go forth in the cause of Allah. So whether you're young and kicking all up in the air, everything's all right, or whether you're a little older, it's according to the time, place, and circumstance. Go forth in the cause of Allah. And remember that we talked about this cycle: birth, growth, decline, and death. This is a cycle that affects all of us, because Allah never changed the grace, the ni'mah, which He had bestowed on a people. Now, this is An-Nas, the people now, Al-Kawn, the people. So this is people growth right here. That means it's community growth. It's organizational growth. It's institutional growth. But before we make any of that growth or development, it has to be a mental, ideological growth. Because that's what sets our goals in place, right? What we're thinking about, what we hope for. So then we can design. Organizations, they have books and structures on organizational design. You design your organization to reach the goals that you wanted to reach. Organizational design. But also individual design, personal design. You can develop your personal program, which is like Imam Hassan al-Banna always had certain outlines. You can save certain amounts of money. You can get involved in physical fitness, right? You can begin to practice more giving than receiving, right? So you can design a personal program for your human development, isn't that right? You can design your life like that. Nobody's preventing you. Then when it's time for big time change, you're ready to do it. Why? Because you have organized yourself. You have developed yourself. And this is not evolutionary. And this time, it's almost a revolution. Why? Evolution takes time. It's over a long period of time. It's slow. It's evolving. It's evolution. Revolution is usually quick and dramatic. How much time do we have before the earth gives up? Right? How much time do we have before the earth gives out? I want to close with this, not warning, but discussion. Years ago, a year or something, about 30 years, they come to the conclusion that the earth was a living organism. So these people is crazy. That's all right. You know, they make big discoveries, like men and women are different, you know. The white man be on his job, boy, he may be 10,000 years late, but finally he come around. He said, you know, there are birds and bees, and boys is one thing and girls is another, but they're the same family, right? That's why, you know, for instance, I don't want to talk about it, but I'll just say this. For instance, if me and you as friends, and you buy me a Benz, brand new Benz, nice Benz, right? Because you're my friend. And you got a big Benz, and you want me to have one too. Could I come back a month later, or 2 weeks later, and say, are you really my friend? You're really my friend. But you can buy your wife a house, and she'll say, do you really love me? Right? Anybody ever experienced that? I'm not saying that. Y'all take it easy. I don't want to get, look, when I first got here, I ain't going to talk about it. The girls had a hotline, and they was on Musa's case, and I couldn't go no, because they could speedier than I was. I'm brand new, going around trying to, no, I didn't mean that, I meant this. And they said, oh, no, is that it? Anyway, but they have discovered that boys and girls are different. That's part of the hikmah, right? Of making things work. Right? Is that you know that this is the way one part of the society is, and this is the way the other part. That's not all, but mostly that's the way it is, right? And you make it happen. That's what hikmah is, the ability to put things in its proper order. But anyway, back to the subject. Birth, growth, decline, and death. We're all going in that direction. We have an opportunity now to help the world. The world that Allah created. Right? That Allah created the earth and gave us something. So Allah is al-Khaliq, right? That means He didn't create this world and fasawa taswiyah to give us a form and a shape, right? To just do anything that comes to our mind if we want to, and especially if it's good. And the taqdeer and the hidayah is to give us the fortitude and the hidayah to go along a certain path that we choose ourselves. That's above any other animals. Now to the earth being a living organism. push people around so long, and then pretty soon they're just ready to fight, right? What about the earth? The earth is a living organism. Suppose you do the earth like they do the economy, where 99% of the people, or 90% of the people, have small percentage of the wealth, and 1% or 10% have most of the wealth. That's an imbalance, isn't that right? In a certain amount of time, that reality is going to be reinforced by the environment. Some people are getting so much money, right, at everybody else's expense, and they're causing pollution. And they don't want to change, right? They don't recognize any of the signs because they don't want to lose that position of power, right? That's an imbalance. These people keep playing with the earth. The earth is sending them a signal. Remember, there are signs in the universe, signs in ourselves, right? And the signs in the earth are saying that the earth is tired. So you keep messing with me, I'm going to burn you up in one area. That's what it's doing in California. Burning your behind up, setting you on fire, right? And over this way, down that way, they drowning like, hey man, there's water, 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 water. Why the earth is getting warmer, and so the hurricanes are getting bigger and bigger. All of that, and it's going to get worse until we change it, until we stop it. Allah gave us an earth with perfect balance. Wouldn't you want to see it back like it was when Allah gave it to us? Fresh water, fresh air, right? And all of that stuff. Isn't that the way Allah gave us the earth? He created it, and He created what? Mizan, was a balance, right? There's no economy in balance. There's no social system in balance. There's no economics in balance. There's no military balance. There's none of that in every system that they created. There's no balance. There's no wazn or mizan in not one system that the human being created. But what Allah gave us, that's the main thing that Allah gave us. His creation was balance. Oh Allah, we seek thy refuge from anxiety and grief. We seek thy refuge from lack of strength and laziness. We seek thy refuge from cowardice and ignorance. We seek thy refuge from being overpowered by debt and the oppression of men. Oh Allah, suffice us with what is lawful, keep from us what is prohibited. With thy grace, make us free from what is beset. Ameen. He cometh to save.